Welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today I am working on 30 Days of Sketches with Christy's Beautiful Life Series 14. Today is day 22, and this sketch was created by Shannon Blinn. I will have her social media account listed below. She does have a great YouTube channel, and she is very inspiring. Make sure you check her out. I think I also have her Instagram account. And I will, if I do, I will list that down there below as well. So this sketch has 4 photos, and she's got 3 squarish photos and then 1 larger photo. So I had these photos, these 2 already printed, and this one already printed, and then this one was another large photo that I just cut down. Because these were already printed into 2x3, my smaller photos are all 2x3, and so that's why there's a difference, because I'd already printed these this series a while back, and I just hadn't scrapbooked this page yet. So yes, that's a toad. And you know me for my cats and coffee and scrapbooking and stuff. But I also like toads and frogs. Anytime I see one, I will pick it up and hold it. And yeah, I'm just weird like that. My youngest daughter is completely freaked out by them. So this particular toad somehow managed to make his way into my container garden, which was kind of surprising because I'm not sure how he got in there. The container garden was mid-thigh high, and we had purchased, it was a cattle watering trough from Tractor Supply Store when we lived in Tennessee, and I used it for my container garden, so I wouldn't have to tear up the yard that we were renting. So we had a large back deck. There was plenty of room for it. So I have my photos ready to go. I also went digging through my 49 and Market, and I knew, whichever way you want to put it, that I have a huge stash of the vintage artistry nature study. Like, I have a ton of it. And yeah, I've even cut into some of this. You can see I've opened this package of embellishments and some of the others as well. But the reason that I pulled this particular pack of paper is, one, I love it. I adore this paper, mushrooms and all. But also because I knew it went really well with this series of photos, and I remembered that it had the mushrooms in it. So I'm going to go ahead and decide which pieces I'm going to use, and I'll be right back. All right, so I broke it down into the papers that I wanted to use. I also pulled out this strip of blue mushroom pattern paper that was a scrap from another layout that I had created with this collection a while back. And I'm going to use my border punch here, and I'm going to create a border, and then I will cut this down and layer a tiny notebook edge behind each of the 4 photos. It works out perfectly, and hey, I get to use a scrap too, which makes me super duper happy. So those tabs that I just showed you actually don't get used. I keep them with this collection, but the embellishments I punched those from are actually from 49 and Market's Toast collection, and because it matched this collection so well, I just put everything in there. So yes, I will be saving those branding strips. I set those aside, and 49 and Market branding strips and Vicky Bouton branding strips are about the only ones I save anymore. So what you saw me do is take an inch off 2 edges, the top and a side of the grid paper. I love that grid paper, and I kept thinking it looked so familiar. And then I finally realized it reminds me a lot of some basic gray paper that I bought every stinking sheet of, and it had some grid in there that was kind of grungy like that as well, and several colors. I have a couple sheets of it left. I don't have very much of it left, but I have a few sheets left. So what I'm doing now is I am gutting the green paper. I have it turned over so you can see the beautiful mushroom side, but I'm actually using the green side. And so I gutted it so that I could use the piece that I gutted for matting for my photos. And now I'm just going to go ahead and put some adhesive on this piece, the grid piece, and I'm going to put it on the green that I'm using to mat it with. Now here's a little step forward. I glued this down and then realized later that I had meant to actually scuff up the edges and ink the edges of the grid paper. So I will take that apart here in a little bit, and I will do that anyway. So first I'm going to go ahead and mat these photos, and if you've watched me do this before, I don't always show this step, but when I do, you will note I really don't measure. I use my trimmer as a guide, and I kind of know where I want to place it, and most of the time I get it fairly even. I mean, if you wanted to be a stickler for measurement and measure me, it's probably not equal, but it's good enough for me. I'm good with it. So I'm going to go ahead and mat all 4 photos with it, and then I will also go ahead and scuff up and ink the edges of these photo mats for this layout. All right, I went ahead and I cut out the rest of the matting of the photos. I thought that was just a little too much information, and y'all know how to mat photos anyway. So now I'm scuffing up the edges, and I'm going to do this with all 4 photos, and then I will go ahead and ink the edges of all 4 photos. So I am going to be using the new Scorched Timber Distress Oxide to ink the edges of my photo mats. I have not used this ink pad yet, so my little blending pad is brand new, and I absolutely love this ink pad. I love the color. Actually, I may have used it for some smooshing, maybe, or maybe I used the spray. I have the spray too, but I just adore this color, and I have come to the conclusion that I prefer the Distress Oxide ink pads and sprays over the regular. I have some of the regular Distress sprays, and I have all of the Distress inks, but I really do prefer the oxides. I love that chalky texture that they have, and I love their reaction on water when I do play with that. So you just saw me take apart my background paper so that I could go ahead and scuff up the edges, as I mentioned that I was going to do, and then I'm going to ink the edges as well. I cannot believe I forgot that I wanted to do that, and I had started to leave it, but you know, it really isn't that big of a deal to pull it apart. The ATG is pretty good about coming apart and going back together. I don't usually have any trouble at all getting it to readhere after I've pulled it apart, and so this just was not that big of a deal, and I thought that the inking and the scuffing of the edges just would, you know, really bring out my layout a lot better. I am really thrilled with how this layout comes together. You'll see as we get going. So off to the left-hand side, you see some little tree rounds there. Those came from MK Gunn's shop, some assemblage required. Those are amazing, and I think I say that at the end of the video as well. I really, really like those and wish I had purchased more than one package. I'm going to have to go back in and get another. I am only going to be using 2 of those on this layout. I'm not going to be using all 3. The third one I'm just going to stick back in the packaging and put with the rest of the embellishments that I have purchased from her storefront. I keep all of those together because they're kind of all themed. Anyway, so here is where I'm taking that paper that I used my border punch on, and I'm cutting it down. I am using my glass mat as a ruler, and I'm just basically guessing at getting it straight. So I'm tucking each one underneath a photo. On the larger photo, it is at the top, and at the smaller photos, they're on the left-hand side. And, you know, I realized again that I meant to ink the edges. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to ink the edges. I didn't glue any of these down just yet. I'm going to do that now. I glue the border punched edge to each photo, and then I'm just going to place them down. And I said at the beginning that I know that my photos are a different shape than hers. Hers are more square, but they are what I had already printed out, and I had 2 printed out. I didn't want to reprint them. I hate wasting ink. And so I just cut down one of my large photos to make it the same size as the other 2 photos. And so that is why I've got different sizing, in case you didn't catch that at the beginning. Like I said, I'm going to be gluing this part down so that things don't shift. And now I'm just going to start placing these embellishments. Now, I don't end up using those tabs because I used the border punch edge instead. I was going to put those 3 toast tabs at the top of each of those small photos, but then I decided to use the border punched edge pattern paper instead. So what you saw me do there is I punched out 2 of the laser cut leafy bits. I'm now punching out some of the mushrooms. I love these mushrooms. I am one of the weirdos that likes to take pictures of mushrooms when we go hiking. They, for whatever reason, bring me great joy. I just love to take pictures of them. And if I see a toad anywhere, A, I'm going to pick him up, and B, I'm going to take a picture of him. And in one of our hiking trips that we did in New York, I found a little tiny one. He was about the size of the tip of my pinky, and he was just so cute. Anyway, that is a sidebar, me and my toads. Of course, this is in my little raised garden behind my house when we lived in Clarksville, Tennessee. And he somehow got into my raised bed, and I have no idea how he got in there. Maybe he jumped. I'm assuming he had to have jumped. I don't think he was already in the dirt because I bought the dirt from Walmart. Anyway, so I am putting a little tiny leafy bit behind each corner of the small photos, and then a tiny mushroom as well. Right there, I was looking for that butterfly that I had punched out before I started the video. And then I decided, you know, I don't have any enamel dots, but these little bugs, I think these 2 are bees, and one of them was a ladybug. I'm like, those would make good replacements for enamel dots. So that's kind of my thought process with those. I'm bringing in another of the little tree rounds and layering up some more mushrooms behind them. I had considered putting the 3rd one on there, and I just set it aside. I just decided it was good the way that it is. These letters are map letters, and I've actually been keeping them with my Vicky Booten Fernwood because they go really well with that, but they also go really well with this. And so I am putting the word friend using the map letters, and then I'm going to grab a set of alphas from behind me, and I am going to put my garden. These are from Pink Fresh Studio, and they're from the collection Keeping It Real. So I grabbed this set of letters, 1, because they were accessible, and 2, because I know that they have green on there, and I decided that, you know, I would just pull the green letters. I used 2 shades of green because not all of the letters came in that one shade that I started with, so I just ended up using 2 different shades of green, and I actually really like how that kind of pops down there, and it just says my garden friend, and I thought that was a cute little title for this layout. Next, I am going to be digging through just a few more things because I think I need more mushrooms on here, and so I'm going to punch out a few more of these mushrooms and another one of the bugs to go on the left-hand side of my title. So I'm going to take this particular little mushroom set, and I'm going to cut a little bit of an edge there so that I can tuck just a tiny bit of it behind the D. And then I'm going to add a couple of the other mushrooms. All right, the first thing I want to say is I have to apologize for the lighting. When it is this time of day, I get weird lighting coming through my blinds, even when I shut them. So I'm sorry for the weird glare lighting over in that corner, but I am very thrilled with the way that this layout turned out. I adore this collection. I think I already said that. And this just came together so well. You saw that I added some of the little tree rounds from Some Assemblage Required. She had those in her storefront up until recently because those came in an order that I just received a few days ago. So you should check that out and see if you would like to have some of those. You'd see if they're still available. I know that I will be repurchasing when I am out. Also, I love all the layering, and I added some splatters at the end, and the darker color is actually called Vintage Coal. It is Prima Blooms spray. I have no idea if they still make those, but I remembered that it dried kind of a dark green, kind of like this, so that is why I chose it. You can see that it's darker like here versus here, and that's just because it hasn't fully dried yet. I also came in and added my Delusions white linen ink spray because that is my favorite, and I think that I am in love with how this layout turned out. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you like what I created with this sketch. Make sure that you check out Shannon's links below because she's an amazing creator and the sketch is super fun, and I'm very thankful that she created such a great sketch for us to play with this month for 30 days of sketches. Also, there is a playlist linked down below that is for the entire month, and yours truly, it doesn't have very many videos on it because for some reason I cannot add them, and unless I get a friend to go in and add all of my videos, they're just not getting added. So I apologize for that. It is completely out of my control. I know how to add to a playlist and it's just not working. So thank you again for being here, and I'll see you next time.